This week on the Analog Circle podcast, CyberPunk 2077 has been delayed. We get a date for the next Nintendo Direct. We may finally have a date when we will see the new Batman game. We now know what year Horizon Forbidden West will release, and we will be going over the EA Play event. All of these stories can be found here, right now, in episode 133 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and let me tell you guys, it is such a pleasure. It is a privilege to be here with you guys, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in to the podcast. Now, guys, I'm not going to tell you where to go to find the show. All I'm going to say is, look, if you want to listen to the show, you just go over to Google, type in the Analog Circle podcast. That's it, brothers and sisters, and enjoy yourself. Now, guys, I want to go ahead and get into my favorite section of the podcast, and that is, of course, the feedback section. And this week, we are going to hear from no other than Mr. Vaughn, who has left us another voicemail. So, Vaughn, what I want you to do right now at this moment in time, brother, is I want you to go ahead and take the floor and take it away.
What's up, Kiaun? It's Vaughn. Checking in once again this week. Celebrating my birthday this weekend. I'm going to be jumping into that Last of Us 2, playing that all week. I got a 4-day weekend, so I'm hyped. I'm excited about that. But I wanted to give you a call and jump in and pick up from last week's show, follow up on a couple things. First of all, shout out to Free Fly Ferret, keep flying, brother. Shout out to you as well. And for you and Kiaun, you guys mentioned about the wanting certain cabinets. Just want to let you guys know, I have 2 arcade one-up cabinets. I have a Mortal Kombat, and they're 12-in-1 cab with games on it like Asteroid, Centipede, Major Havoc, stuff like that. You guys should go to their website. You can get these cabinets in your home. They're 3/4 scale, so you won't find the 6-button X-Men one that you want, Kiaun, but Free Fly Fair, you can definitely get that Gallagher one that you're looking for. The great thing about the size, you can get them with risers, bring them up to standard height where you can stand at them, sit on them with a stool, whatever. And you can move them around. They're only like 60 pounds. You can move around your house. They're not these $5,000 giant machines that we're used to, but it's a lot of fun. I love mine. I've had mine for now like a year and love it. It sits right next to my multicade arcade system. Okay, next. From last week, the 5 games were included in the orange box, and I was asking Kiaun, what would you put in this year's version or your version of the black box? So any 5 games, doesn't have to be from Valve, doesn't have to be any particular genre, but they did have 5 games of different genres, some shooting games, and mixed it up a little bit. So what 5 games of any would you put together on your version of the black box? All right, that's me. I'm getting ready to jump on some Last of Us 2. Everybody have a great weekend. Shout out to the Circle. It's your boy Vaughn. I'm out. Peace.
Shout out to you, Vaughn. I truly want to thank you for this voicemail. It's always great to hear from you, brother, and I truly, truly appreciate you sending me such great questions. And thank you, too, Vaughn, for actually clearing up the question from last week. But before I get into that, I want to say happy birthday to you, Vaughn. I hope you have been enjoying your birthday weekend. I know that you said you're going to be getting into The Last of Us Part 2. That's the game that's on your radar. You got it. You gotta let me know how, how it is, what your first impressions are, because for me, I picked it up, but I did not get a chance to play it. I installed it. It's 2 discs. Big game, but it installed in about an hour. So I would love to get your first impressions on the game. But I do want to say that I have seen the one-up cabinets. That is so dope, by the way, that you have not one, but you got 2 of them. two different one-up cabinets. The first time I had actually seen one in person, it was at Walmart. I saw two of them. One of them was a Pac-Man version. I think it had another game in there with it. And then the other one I saw, I can't remember, but they were both the Pac-Man version and the other version. It was some old school games. So it's good to hear that you have the one-up machines and you can put them on the risers. They're not super heavy, like 2,000 pounds, like they used to be back when we were going to the arcades. And it's just great to hear that, 50, 60 pounds, you're able to move them around. They're not quite the big size of the arcade machines that we were used to, but it is that arcade experience that just sounds so dope. Like I said, I gotta tell y'all about the time when I was within inches of getting a arcade machine for my home as a kid. I gotta tell y'all that story one day. But Vaughn, I know you had asked me about the black box, the 5 games that I would put in my black box. Brother, I'm going to tell you, I know these aren't going to be very popular games, but this is what I would put in the box, brother. I would put in there Bulletstorm. First and foremost, it's a first-person shooter. I know a lot of people didn't like Bulletstorm, but to me, it is still the best first-person shooter I have played. I have not had so much fun with a first-person shooter that was just crazy, over-the-top action. That kick mechanic when you kick the enemy into the air and then you could grapple them with the leash and, do the kill with skill and the slow motion that would happen. That game was just absolutely awesome. So I would have to put that into the black box. The second game I would go with, Vaughn, is Max Payne 3. What another amazing Rockstar game. And I understand a lot of people didn't like Max Payne. They thought it was going to be open world like GTA 4 and 5 and 3, all of the other GTA games before it. And it wasn't. It was a linear story, but the story took so many turns and twists. People died in the game that you didn't think were gonna die. It was just it was great controls, fantastic cinematography when it came to the slow-mo kills and whatnot. When you had that last enemy on the screen and you went into bullet time and you shot the bullet and it showed the bullet shoot out of the gun and it was following the bullet and it would shoot one of the enemies. God, dog, it was so epic. Absolutely an amazing game. Rockstar, please, please, please bring out a Max Payne 4. If you're not going to do a Max Payne 4, give us a remake or something. That game was excellent. The next game I would have to put in the box, Vaughn, I would have to go with Ratchet and Clank, the PlayStation 4 version, because to be fair and honest, I didn't play any of the previous Ratchet and Clanks up until the PlayStation 4. And that game, golly, another amazing game, platformer game. I would put it in there also to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Like I said, it's a fun platformer. It's a fun time. Gameplay is amazing. Graphics are amazing. Story was good, had some comedy relief in it. I mean, it is just, like I said, that game is a 9 out of 10. It was just a fantastic experience. Just to lighten up the mood, Ratchet and Clank has to go in there. Also, I guess we're on the fourth game. I gotta go with Fight Night Champion, brother. Fight Night, it's a fighting game. Fight Night was just so great. It was the first game for me, the first sports game that had a story in it for me. Now, I understand we've had NBA Inside or Inside NBA or whatever, a few other games that did it in the past, but I don't think any of them did it to the magnitude of how Fight Night Champion was. Now, some people may say it wasn't that great of a story, but for me, being such a huge Rocky fan, brother. I mean, I come from the Rocky cloth of film watching, brother. Just an amazing franchise. Rocky films made me want to look at boxing. It was just something else. I'd always hoped to have that one boxing game where you actually had some kind of story to it, kind of like Rocky. So for me, it was great just to see the progression of the character, seeing the main character and his struggle with his younger brother and how they were going back and forth, and then his trainer. Like, it was one fight where the judges, they weren't gonna score the rounds properly. They were always going to favor the other guy, and you had to knock the guy out in a certain amount of time. It was just really well done, the way they had the story go, and then having the story link up to what you had to do in the ring. So gotta put that in there. And when are we gonna get another fight night, EA? We gonna talk about EA a little later, but let me stay on the black box, Vaughn. Now, for the last game, I guess, the final game I will put in the black box, I would have to go with The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us was absolutely fantastic. A game that a lot of people probably didn't even know had a comic book from, years ago. I found that out later, to be fair. It wasn't like I was reading the comic books and knew what this was. But the main character, Bigsby, and his supporting cast, I think Snow White was in the game. Just so many of these fable-like people appearing in the game. I think Beauty and the Beast were in the game. It's been years since I played it, but it was just such a fantastic game. Great story to it. A lot of different choices. I would just put that in there simply to shed some light on a possible franchise or game that a lot of people might not have been familiar with, because up until Batman, a Telltale game, and I've said this before, I thought that The Wolf Among Us was absolutely the best offering that Telltale would have ever been able to do. And I still stand by The Wolf Among Us being amazing. And just for another bit of a switching of pace, I would also put that game in there as well. Now, what I want to say, Vaughn, now this is to all of you listeners out there. I want to ask y'all, this isn't the question of the week, but this is like a bonus question. Since you brought this up, Vaughn, and it's such a fun, great question, I want to ask the listeners out there, if you could compile 5 games, put them into one package, what would those 5 games be? I would be very interested to hear what you guys would say. And if you want to be a part of this section of the podcast, which is the feedback section, you can do that 2 different ways. Either calling in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Vaughn, this was fantastic. You always send these great questions in. It's just great to hear from you, man. Thank you for calling every week and showing support. And let me tell you, speaking of support, man, Vaughn, this gentleman over the weekend, Friday, he hit me up on Twitter. I was not expecting this, totally out of left field. Vaughn hits me up and he says, here you go. He sent me one picture. One was with a $25 PlayStation card and a Xbox PlayStation card. And then the second and third pictures, he had scratched off the actual codes on those cards and said that he wanted to give one away to the listeners, and he wanted me to keep one for myself. Vaughn, brother, that was just amazing to me, man. It was absolutely incredible. Here it is, your birthday weekend, and you're actually giving out gifts to other people. So, Vaughn, I want to shout you out, big shout you out, and thank you for such generosity, brother. So, for you guys listening, The Last of Us 2, it just came out this week, so it was no way I was going to pick the PlayStation card because that's such a big game. So what I want to do is I want to give that card. Well, I'm not giving it out to you. Vaughn is actually giving it out to you guys. So without further ado, get your pens, get your paper, get your crayons or your markers, whatever you need to write this $25 PlayStation gift cards number down. So here it is. It is as follows: AGQR TJN8 HA9E. Once again, that is from Vaughn. He just found just kindness, just absolute the kindness in his heart, man, to give this away. Shout out to you, brother. And for anybody that gets it, pick up The Last of Us Part 2 or any other game. But remember, it was from Vaughn. So shout out to you again, brother, for such amazing kindness. And thank you also for being such a huge supporter of the show. It's always great to hear from you. And please, as always, continue to write in. Thank you so much. But guys, that was the end of the feedback section this week. And like I said, I had picked up The Last of Us Part 2. I actually installed it. It's downloaded, but I had a couple of places to go this weekend, so I didn't get a chance to actually play it. Matter of fact, shout out to my big sister, Shelly. Happy birthday to you. I mean, it was fantastic seeing her and my family. We all got together, had a great time. So, man, Vaughn, you and my sister, y'all are like 2 days apart with birthdays, man. It's pretty amazing. But, yeah, anyway, guys, though, like I said, no games were played. So without further ado, there's nothing else but to do is to get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news that went down. I don't even know if I introduced that properly. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's start things off with some very interesting PlayStation news. So this week we got some confirmation about what we can expect from future PlayStation 5 designs. And this news is coming from PlayStation Vice President of UX Design, Matt McLaurin, who said over on LinkedIn, and I quote, "While this is the flagship / reference, you can count on even more beautiful and hopefully radical special editions. Customization with special editions will be beyond anything seen before." Someone mocked up a wooden one on Reddit and it looked crazy good. Someone also mocked up a Spider-Man Miles Morales PlayStation 5 special edition, although it's not official. Still, it's incredibly impressive and could give you an idea of what a Miles Morales PlayStation 5 might look like, hypothetically speaking. End of quote. Now, I must say, PlayStation 5 is coming out very soon. Me, myself, I absolutely love the design. It looks so futuristic. The curves and the way it looks amazing. So I can only imagine. I didn't see that mocked up Miles Morales. No, matter of fact, I think I did. Was it black and did it have the red trim? Maybe. I'm not too sure about that, but that was one of the things I saw. But man, could you imagine, like he said, it's not real and it's hypothetical, but how amazing would it be? And this is, like I said, this is in dreamland, that maybe 2 years, 3 years from now, we see a new Spider-Man custom console, PlayStation 5, that releases, because we know that first one, I wanted that PlayStation 4 Spider-Man console, sold out. I couldn't get my hands. I'm always late For some reason, I'm late every single time when it comes to these things. You would think I would have learned by now. I missed out on the Spider-Man one and I missed out on the CyberPunk. But what I'm saying is this is great news, though. In a nutshell, just to wrap this up, this is fantastic news that PlayStation, they're going to continue to give us those customized consoles and possibly having some radical designs that will be brought to the table. Not crazy, mind-blowing news, I know, guys, but we're going to get there. We're going to continue and we're going to keep moving forward, brothers. Now, let's get into the next story. So, after months and months of speculation, we may have finally nailed down when we will see the latest Batman game. I'm holding on, brothers. I want to hold on and believe that eventually it's going to happen. But Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment announced, quote, DC Fandom, which is going to be a virtual event that will cover everything DC related, and this event will be taking place on August 22nd. And guess who's going to be present at this event? WB Games. But I will say WB Interactive hasn't made any official announcement. So here we are again. You're getting me hyped up once more here, hoping that we see something, at least right now. It has to be something here. I mean, they said it. It's DC Fandom, and they're going to be going over everything DC related. WB Games is going to be there. Now, granted, we understand what the situation is now. AT&T, they're trying to get rid of WB Interactive. They're trying to sell it off for $4 billion. You got Rockstar out there that's interested. EA's interested, and Activision is interested. Hopefully, Microsoft will be interested as well, but that's a heck of a lot of people to be bringing over. I mean, when I get excited, all thought and processing everything in a proper manner is out the window. But thinking about such a gigantic acquisition, I mean, that's hundreds of employees. You got Rocksteady, you got the guys that make Mortal Kombat, I'm forgetting their name. You got WB Montreal. That is a lot of studios to incorporate into your hamster wheel of other things that you have going on. I don't know. When I think about it, I don't know if that's possible, but the gamer in me wants to see something like that happen, because that could be a humongous purchase for Microsoft. And then the notion that Xbox has no games, that goes out the window. They get a Rocksteady on their squad. Good gosh, these guys have not made one bad game. All of their games, even Arkham Knight, yes, that Batmobile was not the move. That wasn't it, brothers. But that story, the graphics, just the gameplay, the fighting, the mechanics, that game, like I said, that is the best superhero game I have played. And I still, to this day, put it above Spider-Man. Spider-Man was fantastic. And that ending, whew, wow, hit me in the heart, brother. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. The acting in Spider-Man, top notch. But it's something about that Batman game, Batman Arkham Knight, that it still just eked it out, brothers. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I'm hoping that the Batman game is here at this DC Fandom. We'll have to see, guys, but nonetheless, August 22nd is coming. maybe we should temper expectations because I've been let down a lot this year, brother, on all of the rumors that I've been reading. Oh, it hurts. God dog, it hurts. But nonetheless, we'll have to see what happens when that date comes up. Let's go ahead and let's get into the next story. So let's talk about Horizon Zero Dawn, because during the PlayStation 5 event, we didn't see a release date for this game. So I started thinking it was going to release in like 2028. Nah, I'm joking. I was thinking more so like 2022, maybe 2023. But, well, according to the game's director, now I'm not going to get this brother's name right. You know I'm horrible with names. Now, it's Math Engis. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because it's spelled Mathijs. How do you say that, brothers? Math Engis Dae Jung. I think I got his last name right. Anyway, he has announced that the game will release in 2021. Now, he also gave us details on what we can expect from the game, and I quote, he says, with the additional power of the PlayStation 5, we can make the world even more detailed, more vibrant, and more immersive. With the PlayStation 5's SSD, there will be virtually no loading screens. Restarting from a checkpoint will be super fast, and when you boot up the game, you're right there in the action. End of quote. So here we see a big emphasis on the SSD. Once again, this brother said as soon as you boot up the game, you're right there in the action. Loading screens are gonna virtually not exist for the most part. And the game is just going to it looks like it's just going to be pretty darn amazing, if you ask me. Now, the first one, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Didn't beat it. I did not beat it. Played it and really thought, good grief, what a amazing looking game. And it looks like with Horizon, I think it's to the west. I know it's not part 2, but Horizon something west or whatever. That game looks like they're reaching another bar of amazing looking graphics. So you top the graphics. I mean, you put the graphics on top of having the fast loading times. That is the kind of innovation I want to see this generation. Now, whether or not it's going to be as seamless as this gentleman is saying, we won't know until they're out in the wild, but it sounds so good. I mean, you think about games like Red Dead Redemption 2, they take forever to load up. If you could even cut that loading time by half, it would be amazing. But the way these guys are talking, it's going to be almost instantaneous. So those are the kinds of things that gets me very excited for next generation and get me excited for games like Horizon to the West, I believe it's called. But anyway, I really, really look forward to seeing this game, and we'll just have to wait for it. And hopefully with it being 2021, hopefully it falls within like the release window, well, the launch window of the console, because we know it's coming out probably November. I don't know if it's going to slip into December. We'll have to see, but let's just say November for all intents and purposes. You figure 2021 is like a month away from that time. So maybe we'll get it somewhere in March, April, somewhere midway through almost through 2021. But we'll see. But let's go ahead and get into, which must be to me, it is the most, I was just let down. One of the biggest letdown stories of the week. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. Now, I'm frustrated, but nonetheless, CD Projekt Red has yet again delayed CyberPunk 2077 until November 19th. So here is the official statement from CD Projekt Red founder Merson Owinski and head of studio Adam Badowski. Hopefully I said their names right. And I quote, "At the time we are writing these words, CyberPunk 2077 is finished, both content and gameplay wise. The quests, the cutscenes, the skills and items, all the adventures Night City has to offer, it's all there. But with such an abundance of content and complex systems interweaving with each other, we need to properly go through everything, balance game mechanics, and fix a lot of bugs. End of quote. So with this news, this tells me that I'm sure that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to win Game of the Year, because I think they're going to miss the window for the Game Awards, which I was hoping to see which one of those two games were going to beat each other, but it looks like by default, CyberPunk 2077 is not going to get nominated. Now, what will be interesting, now this is how you'll know if it's a little bias in the industry, and I'm not trying to stir up any kind of controversy, I'm truly not, but I'm just saying, a lot of people were upset about Jedi Fallen Order when that game didn't get announced, or it didn't get the Game of the Year nod because it came out too late. Now, if Cyberpunk 2077 actually does, and it's past that date where you have to be out in that certain amount of time before they can even put you in that category, that would be absolutely interesting to see. I'll be very, very interested to know how that all pans out, but I definitely wanted to see Cyberpunk 2077 and The Last of Us Part 2 go against each other head to head to see who would get the Game of the Year nod for this year. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I don't know if that's going to do it. Anyway, I'm about to get into a whole nother conversation, but also, anyway, nah, that's not it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. Now, Brian Horton, who is the creative director of Spider-Man Miles Morales, wanted to thank fans for their positive reaction to the trailer. But not only did he thank fans, he also shared a few tidbits of info about the game. Now, he did confirm that it's wintertime around a year after the events of the first game, and New York is covered in snow, and just before Christmas break. So we know that this is, man, that's pretty dope, man. Hold on, let me just take a minute out just to say I like this, man, because it's going to be around Christmas time when the PlayStation 5 is released. You got Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales actually taking place with the snow in the city and right before Christmas break. This is a really good lineup of how the two things are kind of going to be intertwined into each other. I like this, man. Now, he also went on to say that it's a war between an energy corporation and a high-tech criminal army that has broken out, and Miles Morales' new home in Harlem is at the heart of the battle. Now, as far as the size and scope of the game, Brian likened it to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and he also included that Spider-Man Miles Morales is an important, heartfelt, emotional, and essential experience to expand the Marvel Spider-Man universe. And that, now to me, that's actually pretty dope, because now I haven't followed the comic books. I don't know what goes on with Miles Morales and Peter Parker, but people have told me certain things that ain't nobody tell me nothing. I just heard some conversation. I was trying to link the two together, and it was on another podcast, but I still didn't see exactly where it was going. But it seems like something happens to Peter Parker. I don't know. But people are saying that this is going to be a dope segue into the second Spider-Man that's going to be on the PlayStation 5. And right here, the guy's saying it's heartfelt, it's emotional, and an essential experience to expanding the Marvel Spider-Man Spider-Man universe. Now, he continued to say this will be a full story arc with Miles. And he also talked about a few features that the game will have to show off the PlayStation 5's power. Now, he says the game will show off near instant loading times. Here we go again, near instant loading times. This is fantastic. He also said ray tracing, 3D audio, and the DualSense controller. He also said that they have upgraded their characters with 4D scans and improved skin shading for more realistic looking characters and spleen based hair that moves far more naturally. And many of the city assets have also been updated to take advantage of the new console. And then he continued to mention that Peter Parker is okay, and don't worry, they have much of Peter's story left to tell, but this game is all about Miles. So here we see once again the guy saying that Peter Parker is okay, which makes me believe, I don't want to, y'all know what it makes us all believe if you're not aware of the story. I haven't seen any of the Marvel films lately. The last Marvel film I saw was the original Avengers that came out. I don't know what's going on with the Avengers 2 or anything. I have that movie on Blu-ray in 3D and have not taken the time out to watch it. I ain't seen Black Panther. I haven't seen any of the newer Spider-Man films. So I truly am in the dark when it comes to the character of Miles Morales. I mean, I learned more about Miles in the actual game than I knew previously, at all. I didn't know anything about him. So, I mean, the way it's looking, Peter Parker, his next game, these two are going to intertwine probably some way. This game, that's just totally focused on Miles Morales, and then Spider-Man 2 comes out. It's just going to be interesting to see how it works out, man. And I got to say, it's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, that Spider-Man, it was just one of the best games ever. A great superhero game. Not quite to Batman for me. It's no need to, we don't have to compare the two. They were both excellent, but it was a great game. This Miles Morales DLC, well, they're not calling it DLC. They're saying it's a standalone game. And it was an article that was up, and I didn't get a chance to read it, but basically the developers over there at Insomniac, they were saying that they weren't trying to mislead people into thinking that this was just a DLC. So like I said, I don't have the details or anything like that. I'll probably read it at a later date. I probably won't. I ain't gonna lie. I probably won't. But I'll figure out what's going on, probably from one of the podcasts I listen to, and take it from there. But I mean, this is interesting. I definitely look forward to the game. I understand why Sony did it. They put it on the PlayStation 5, and I think it's going to be great, but we'll have to wait and see. And once again, I'm just very interested in knowing how this game and the second game are going to intertwine, because it seems like it's something there that's going to link the two. We already know Miles knows Spider-Man, well, Peter Parker. They both know each other. I know the connection there, but as far as like how the two games are going to sync up, I mean, hey, could it be co-op? Am I going too far? Probably so. I don't think we're going to see Miles Morales and Peter Parker both being Spider-Man. I don't think that's going to happen. That's just crazy. Anyway, I'm talking way too much about this and not making sense. So let me go on, get up out of this story and get into the next one. Oh, shucks. There it is. You guys heard me at the CD story where I was kind of stumbling and mumbling like blah, blah, blah. This is why it was actually an update. Let's go ahead and double back to CD Projekt Red, because we got an update on Friday where CD Projekt Red said, and I quote, "We are happy to confirm that CyberPunk 2077 will be backwards compatible with both next-gen consoles. Your PlayStation 4 copy of the game will work on PlayStation 5 on launch day. Anyone who buys the game on Xbox One will be able to play their copy on Xbox Series X when the console launches too. They closed it out by saying, and I quote, "A later upgrade to CyberPunk 2077 taking full advantage of the next-gen hardware will be available for free." End of quote. Now, this is big news. This is big news because this whole time, now we've seen a little hints here and there that PlayStation wouldn't be left behind when it comes to this backwards compatibility, having games that work on the 4, work on the 5, because we know that it wasn't a mandate. It wasn't quite a mandate, but it was strongly suggested that games that released, I believe it's going to be after July sometime, they be compatible with the PlayStation 5. But here you have it, and we've had 2 previous games that we went over last week. One being Control, that's going to be available on the PlayStation 5. We got to stay tuned for more details about that at a later date. But also Destiny, that's going to be compatible with the PlayStation 5, and you'll be able to bring all of your content with you, and the game is going to go from 30 to 60 frames per second, and it's going to be in 4K resolution. So it looks like Sony is trying to keep pace with what Microsoft is doing with their smart delivery. Now, are they going to call it smart delivery or some kind of name over on the PlayStation side? I doubt it. I guess they'll just continue to make sure that they get these upgrades. But the interesting thing about, as far as the backwards compatibility goes, is Microsoft still has one heck of a card in the deck to play, because not only is the Series X going to be compatible with Xbox One, but it's also going to be available to play compatible. I said available to play, compatible with the Xbox 360 and the original Xbox. So once you get to the Series X, you have 4 generations of gaming options that you can play on one console. Now, granted, they did say that it's going to be upgrades to some of the games. We got to stress that. It's not the whole 1,000+ catalog of games that are going to be getting the upgraded 4K textures that will be going from 30 to 60 frames per second. They said it's going to be some, not all. But despite that, still being able to go back 3 full generations of consoles to play on one, that is still an absolutely amazing thing to see. And we see that PlayStation, they are not talking about the PS3, the PS2, or PS1 being backwards compatible with the 5. We've only heard that it's going to be compatible with PlayStation 4 games as it stands right now. And then we even heard them say that it would be, at one point, it was going to be 100 of the top games that were on the PlayStation 4. Mark Cerny said this, that would play on the PlayStation 5, and then they retracted that, and then they said 1,000 games or whatever. So it's very interesting to see how this whole situation is going to play out. Who's going to have the upper hand when it comes to the backwards compatibility of actually making the games be enhanced on the new consoles, the next generation? We'll have to wait, sit back, and just watch the fireworks start to go off, because next generation is going to be so exciting. Let's go ahead and move into some quick news here. So, oh man, this was underwhelming too, to say the least. But the Nintendo, they did announce, I messed that all up. Nintendo, they did announce that the next Nintendo Direct will take place on June 22nd. Now, when I heard this, you know what I thought of first. We're about to see something on Metroid. The new Metroid is going to be shown at this Direct. Yes, June 22nd, which is tomorrow, by the way. I'm recording this on Sunday. It's tomorrow. This is happening. But then the excitement level went all the way down. It plummeted my excitement because this event is going to focus only on Super Smash Brothers and what ARMS characters are coming to the game. Dag it, Nintendo, god dog it. They also said that as far as the presentation's length, is going to be about roughly 35 minutes long. Darn, Nintendo. I truly thought, I understand E3 is not going on this month. It's not. And I know you saw the question. We're going to get into it. But I was hoping June 22nd, this has to be some kind of bigger direct than this. And it's not. God darn. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into some more quick news. The Last of Us Part 2, according to GamesIndustry.biz, has become the fastest selling PlayStation 4 exclusive this generation. Meaning, and this is the crazy part about this, this means that in essence, Naughty Dog has topped themselves, because before now, Uncharted 4 back in 2016 was the best-selling PlayStation 4 game, and now you have The Last of Us Part 2 4 years later, a Naughty Dog game, come out and top that as the best-selling game this generation on the PlayStation 4. Now, granted, I have to point this out because over there on GamesIndustry.biz, they did say that this does not include digital sales. So for anybody that might want to nitpick and say, well, no, that's not right because of this. This is totally based on physical, which really says a lot too, because everybody is talking about going digital. People want to go digital. Sony, they have it out there, right? Well, it's not out there technically right now, but they even have the PlayStation 5 all digital version is going to be available at launch. So just the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 physically sold this well is absolutely fantastic. And I'm so glad that the game did well, because a couple of weeks ago, you guys know I'd asked the question because of the spoilers that we had seen or heard. I didn't see any. Thank goodness it didn't get spoiled for me. But a lot of people, unfortunately, were spoiled by the game. I was wondering, would this affect the gaming sales? And according to this, absolutely not. And I do want to shout out Heartache Gaming. Shout out to that good brother. He actually had started the game, and he said something very interesting when I was listening to his first impressions. He had said that big, huge spoiler, which I have no recollection of because I didn't see it or read it. He said that happens 3 hours, within about 3 hours into the game. So for anybody that thought or might have read that thought that was the end all be all ending, it's 3 hours in. And we know that the game is 30 hours long. I mean, if you're being very, very, very courageous and trying to get everything, all of the collectibles, 30 hours, but roughly 25 at least hours. So that means you have about 22 hours left of the entire game to get through before you get to the end. So that says a lot. Neil Druckmann, he had talked about that. He said people don't know. You really don't know what's going on and what happened to get things there. And it seems like this seems fantastic because basically the whole game was not spoiled, just the first 3 hours of it. So yeah, that's about it for that. But moving into the final story for this week, I'll say Activision, they actually confirmed that Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is a real game and it will release on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but no release date was given. But Activision did say that the game will be revealed tomorrow on June 22nd at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you want to check that out. So, and the reason why I was saying that it's a real game was because a couple of days ago, I believe it was on Taiwan. I can't remember which website it was, but the game had got a rating. It was on the rating board, and somebody had leaked it, and people were wondering, wow, was this another Crash game or not? And it was confirmed that it was. So for any of you guys that want to see this, that want to check it out, go ahead and tune in tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. But guys, that is the end of the game. Well, you know what? No, it ain't the end of the darn gaming news. We got to talk about this EA event real quick. Oh, man. Listen, brothers, listen. EA, you've been in this game a long time. You are one of the oldest publishers out here. And you look, listen, granted, I want to say I'm happy that the show happened, but I'd be lying to y'all if I said that, because it was just so underwhelming for me personally. I was upset, man, you guys remember just a few weeks ago, it might have been not last week, but the week before, we had got that rumor that Mass Effect remake was going to happen. It was going to be 1, 2, and 3. It was going to be in 4K. It was going to be 60 frames per second. Granted, we knew it was a rumor. I knew it was a rumor. But I thought, man, this has got to be a shoo-in by this time. EA, you said you're bringing back old IPs. And God dog, did they go into the vault and take out an old IP. These jokers ended the daggone show with Skate. I mean, listen, I know a lot of people are looking forward to Skate, but darn, you got Tony Hawk. That's releasing this year. The other Skate game that we saw on the Xbox One's E3 stage, that's releasing later on this year. These guys didn't even have a still shot of the game. They just had the two guys that were behind it and say, yay, we did it. Skate, man, get the heck out of here. Who do you think you are fooling? I don't know. Listen, I've heard people be excited about Skate and they want to see it come back, but man, I don't know if the demand was that huge. Skate was pretty dope. I will say, having a second analog stick to control a board, that was cool and all, but golly, what a way to end the show. It was just so underwhelming. The ending. And then you had them do the same thing that they did with Mass Effect Andromeda. I talked about that a few weeks ago. Y'all all remember looking at the EA play from that year, and we wanted to see just real gameplay of Andromeda, and they just kept showing it on the monitor, little glimpses here and there. They did the same thing with, I don't know if it's Burnout or whatever. I think it's a game by Criterion. It looks good, but it was no gameplay. They showed something that could possibly be Battlefield 5, where it showed the soldier's face and he looked like he was kind of smiling. It looked good, but it was no gameplay. EA, what the world? What the world is going on over there? They showed off some small games. They talked about the Sims. Sims was dope. I actually liked that. That was kind of heartwarming to see people being able to be themselves, escaping into the game, people accepting them. That was great, man. And I also I really enjoyed, them just having that in the show. But I'm not a Sims player, man. It's not my thing. It was just nothing here for me. They showed off Command and Conquer. There was 4K. It got doggone remastered. What the world? It looked like a phone game. How the world was that remastered, EA? Come on, man. Golly. It was just such a letdown for me, man. I was looking forward to it. I thought we were going to see fireworks. I mean, granted, it's probably my fault It is my fault. It ain't no probably in it because I thought Mass Effect was going to be there. Once again, expectations being set and man, just getting nothing that I hope to see. I was hoping to see a couple of other games that were just dormant for some time, make a comeback, but nothing. I gave that show like a 4 out of 10, man. The only game there that saved it just a little bit for me, and it wasn't much, just a little bit, it was Star Wars Squadrons. And the only reason why that game saved it for me a bit is because it's in VR. And I had played one of the Star Wars games. I don't know if it was Battlefront 1 or 2. I'm not sure. But I was in Best Buy and they had the VR missions up and I played it and wow, what an amazing experience. So I can only imagine with this game, which looks better already than what I was playing on the VR a couple of years ago, having this kind of experience, having these 5v5 dogfights and fleet battles. This could be absolutely great. And it's a $40 title, which is cool too. But to say that anything outside of this was like fantastic. I mean, it was one other game, I gotta say, I think it was like a gothic aesthetic to it. A pretty interesting art style. It was by one of their indie developers. I think it was Zoink Games. That looked pretty cool. I can't remember the name of the game, but it was just nothing here for me. It just didn't do it for me. But anyway, now that is officially the end of the gaming news. And I was going to report on that too. I was writing notes and everything. By the end, I was like, man, I ain't going down there to record this. Nah, I'm going to pass. But anyway, guys, we're in the final section of the podcast. And like I do every single week, I want to ask you guys a question. And I know y'all saw it, but I'm going to officially ask it right now. So, do you miss E3? I'm going to tell y'all, at the beginning of this summer, hearing about this Summer Game Fest, hearing that we were going to be getting demos and it was going to be gaming news every single day, I was like, this is it. This is amazing. This is what gamers want. A whole summer of gaming news. Oh, this is going to be unbelievable. E3, I'm sorry to see you go, but you gotta go. This is the new format. This is the new hotness out here in these gaming streets. We need this. A constant flow of gaming information. Boy, was I wrong. My goodness. I know a lot of people out there don't think E3 is important. They think the industry doesn't need it. These companies, they can put on their own shows and don't have to have any link to E3. My gosh. It is some very, very good perks to have an E3. First off, and this is me being selfish. I know what days to take off from work. I don't have to guess what day am I going to need to take off for work because we know E3 is happening this week, this time, at this moment for these different events. So for me trying to keep up with this information being completely scattered left, right, up, down, everywhere, it is impossible for me to take off from work. I can't nail down anything. Like they said, a Nintendo Direct is happening tomorrow. This stuff is just random. Whereas when E3 was here, it was structure. We knew exactly when things were going to happen. There was no backing out of E3 if you were already on the docket to be there at E3. Granted, Sony, they ducked out last year sometime before any of this happened, so they weren't going to be there anyway. Their date could have fell anywhere it was supposed to, but I know they would have put it somewhere in the official E3 week because they wouldn't want Microsoft to get all of that shine without having some kind of clapback to tell people what they were working on. So that is the main thing for me that I miss from E3. It's just the structure. You knew when everybody was going to go. We got that big, huge plethora of gaming news for that whole week, and then it's gone. Poof! In the air. But it was just so much better to me. I have missed it very, very much this year. I think that it needs to come back. I think we need E3 because you think about it, and I might have talked about this before. What better way to show off your products when everybody knows that this is the week we tune in for gaming news? Having the fans there, having the press there. I mean, not so much the press, because press they're on business. Not all of them are gamers like we are. But just having your fan base in the crowd. You talk about a dope, hot game that's releasing, and to get that energy from the crowd where everybody's going crazy. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've been waiting for this. I mean, you talk about that Final Fantasy VII show with Sony. The Shenmue was in that show. Just so many amazing games. I think The Last Guardian was in that show. I mean, just an absolute amazing moment in gaming history when it comes to E3. That show was monumental. And to not have the crowds there, to not have, just people cheering in the stands, it doesn't hold the same weight as it would if you had that. And this year, we know Aaron Greenberg and them, they on they doggone connects, trying to have doggone inside Xboxes and whatnot. I mean, it's interesting. We know Inside Xbox didn't have fans or anything, but I'm just saying, this is the way things are going this year, having Sony, their presentation top notch, but not having a fan base there. Because even if Sony had backed out of E3, what if they had did their show, that XO, I forget the name of their event. It hasn't happened in a few years now, but they used to have it in December sometime, where it was XO Fest or something like that, the PlayStation had with all of their fans. Even if they didn't do E3 officially, they could have done some kind of event like that, had the fans come out, and everybody could have cheered and been like, oh man, it's amazing, Ratchet and Clank, oh gosh, Miles Morales and all of that good stuff. That's just the part of E3 that I'm really, really missing this year, is everything I said, the people, the fans being in the stands, having that 1 week where you have to show up and show everybody your hand, or at least the hand that you want to show at that time during E3 week. Because now they got the option where they can back out. Oh, no. We're not going this week. We're going to go 2 weeks from now. I mean, and just to that point, Microsoft just said they're going to have a show in July. They didn't even say what day it's going to be in July. We've heard that this show is happening for at least 2 weeks or more now, and they still haven't given us a date. And that's the problem with not having E3. Nobody is held to the fire. You can do what you want to do. I mean, God dog, did you ever think we would see Sony go before Microsoft? Ever? During a conference, a E3 conference. Granted, it wasn't technically E3, but y'all know what I mean. That was their conference showing off their new console. We have never seen Sony go first. Microsoft has always been the first one up on the stage, and Sony follows suit second. So, good grief. I mean, that's the question. I was very long-winded with this question. I apologize about being that way, but once again, do you miss E3? Pardon me, I'm belching and everything. It never fails, every show. Anyway, if you want to be a part of this section of the podcast, you can do it 2 different ways. Either call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I truly want to thank you guys for all of the amazing support, everybody coming out to listen to the podcast. It truly means so much to me. Thank you guys very much. Shout out to Vaughn again for his great generosity. Thank you again, brother, for the gift card. And for anybody out there that uses it, please shout out Vaughn for that. But guys, I'm about to get up out of here. And that's going to do it for this week. But don't worry, because we will be at it again next week. But until then, guys, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next week, when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.